How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, we know it's getting closer and closer to the time that possibly, I'm going to say that possible, that Amber Guyger, the murderer who purposely killed Botham Jean, will go to trial. Now, if everything goes smoothly, on the 23rd of September, the trial will begin. So I always, y'all know, go that extra deeper mile for the royal family, and I got full coverage. Now, even though I'm still dealing with some YouTube drama, no need to worry. When it comes to this case, I'm going to be all over it. So, my royal family, we got a number of videos to watch. I think in this particular case, there is no need to read anything because we know what's going on. So, let's just, kick back and watch these numerous videos.
Jurors has been chosen to determine the guilt or innocence of former Dallas police officer Amber Guyger. That jury for the Guyger murder trial was selected within just the past hour. Good evening, I'm Clarice Tinsley. Guyger, who was charged with murder for shooting and killing Botham Jean in his apartment, has been in court since early this morning. Her attorneys and the prosecution questioned a jury pool of more than 200 people, settling finally on 12 jurors and 4 alternates. They will sit in judgment of the now fired Dallas officer. The judge told those selected it is possible she will sequester them for the entire trial. Fox 4's Stephen Dial at the courthouse live with these late-breaking developments. Stephen.
Clarice, the judge just personally called and informed all 12 jurors and the 4 alternates that will be seated in this case. The judge telling the jury that if they are selected, they would have to bring at least a week's worth of clothing because she is not ruling out sequestering the jury because of the national attention that this incident has gained. She doesn't want the jury to be influenced in any way, and so she's not ruling out sequestering the jury to a hotel. Now, our cameras were rolling this morning when Amber Guyger entered the courtroom. The judge told me that this is possibly the largest jury pool in recent memory for a high-profile case like this. The number starting in the 800s and then dwindling it down to about 400 people during the questionnaire, and then today the number going down to 220 people all the way to get to that 220 number. Now, the jurors were asked questions from both sides, the prosecution and Guyger's attorneys. They were asked questions like, can you be fair and unbiased? They were asked questions like, do you think that officers should be held to a higher standard than just regular civilian people living in Dallas County? They were also asked, could you be open-minded when it comes to ruling on a lesser charge? There are multiple charges in this, so basically asking if they could rule on something like probation for manslaughter if murder was not the verdict from the jury. This case dates back to 2018 when Amber Guyger shot and killed Botham Jean in his apartment. Again, both sides have been going back and forth with this possible talks of change of venue. The judge did not rule on that today, but she says that the jury will meet here at the courthouse on September 23rd. It's important to note that even though that 12-member jury has been seated and selected, tonight the judge did not give any indication if what the racial or gender makeup is of this jury, with this being such a high-profile case and a white officer and a black person that was killed. And so we hope to get more information. Both sides are meeting on Monday at 8 o'clock. But we have no idea if Amber Guyger is requested to be in that presence. Clarice?
Stephen, the major question was, would the trial be held in Dallas County? Is it definite that the trial will start in Dallas County?
From all accounts, it seems like everything will happen here in Dallas County. The judge just didn't want to give a definitive answer, but they will meet here. The 12 jurors and the 4 alternates will meet here on the 23rd unless something happens in the next week.
All right, and the final 200, how late did they stay in the courtroom tonight?
Yeah, they were in the courthouse until it was closed, well after it was closed. All of them being dismissed around the 7 o'clock hour, and then both sides, the prosecution and the defense, came back together to strike and get that number down to 12 right around 9 o'clock tonight.
And Judge Kemp was the one who personally made the phone calls to each person to let them know they were either on the jury or they would be an alternate?
Correct, and that's something that sometimes that doesn't always happen. She said this is there are a lot of firsts in this case, and so that was something first for her, calling and letting them know. She said usually the process is they sit there while both sides decide who they want, and then they'll see who the jury is, and then you go right to the trial. This one was definitely done different. She gave out a cell phone number, and she said that she'll make sure that that number won't be circulated.
Okay, my royal family. As we continue on, now on this particular media outlet, I have a number of videos. So it gives us some insight. What I'm about to play. It's a number of videos I'm gonna play here. So let's just keep it rolling.
Been chosen, as I mentioned off the top, in the Amber Guyger murder trial. The process of narrowing down a field of hundreds to the final 16 came to an end, and that happened within the last hour. Andre and Lucia live for us over at the Frank Crowley Courthouse. Late night to get this done tonight.
Absolutely. And Doug, the chosen were no longer around to hear this. Around 7:30, the judge sent home the 220 remaining potential jurors. By now, 16 of them should have received a phone call notifying them that they have been selected to serve 12 as jurors and 4 as alternates. Now, usually the decision would be made with the jury still here. But the first time that this jury will sit together will be the first day of Amber Guyger's trial, which is scheduled for September 23rd. The former Dallas police officer was here today watching as the prosecution and defense questioned these potential jurors. When polled by a prosecutor, 10 said they could not under any circumstances find her guilty for the murder of Botham Jean. When asked by the defense, though, another half dozen expressed skepticism of her account that she mistook Jean's apartment for her own and killed him thinking he was an intruder. And this may surprise you. About a dozen claimed that they knew nothing about this high-profile case. Now, some of these answers will have disqualified some of the potential jurors if, for example, they revealed an inability to remain impartial. Doug.
So let me ask you this, though, because having served on a jury, I've been through it a few times. Typically, the jurors are allowed to ask questions through this process as well, voice any concerns they might have. I'm sure that's probably no different here. Did you catch wind of anything they asked about tonight?
Well, Doug, they clearly know that this is a big trial. So when given the chance, they asked about their security, their anonymity. They asked what it would be like if they were sequestered. The judge has not ruled, but strongly suggested that this jury could be kept, put up in a hotel and kept to themselves for the duration of the trial. I know one man asked, if chosen, how much he should pack, how much clothes he should pack. The judge suggested probably about 2 weeks worth.
2 weeks worth. Okay. So this is step one. Trial begins September 23rd.
Okay, let's continue on. Oops. I had it wrong. Next media outlet. Oh, forgive me for that. So as we continue on.
With breaking news out of Dallas, a jury has been selected for the Amber Guyger murder trial. Guyger is the fired Dallas police officer charged with shooting and killing Botham Jean inside his apartment last year. The jury decision went well into this evening. Meredith Yeomans has been there all night. She is live at the Frank Crowley Courthouse with the latest. Meredith?
Yeah, Brian, the judge told potential jurors earlier today that they can expect a call from her personally if they get selected. About an hour ago, attorneys from both sides came back down, made their final decisions, so she's been upstairs making those calls ever since. Amber Guyger has been in the room all day today. More than 400 people were called back. That was whittled down to 220. Then late tonight, 12 jurors and 4 alternates were picked We do not know the gender breakdown. The defense and prosecution spent equal time today questioning potential jurors and weeding out anyone with bias. At one point, the jury pool was asked if they knew anything about the case. Out of hundreds of people, about 10 people raised their hands. We spoke with one juror who was dismissed earlier today.
I think the experience it was pretty intense at first when you noticed that there's 1,000 people in the room at the beginning. But afterwards, it got very calm. The judge did a great job of letting us know that things were well taken care of. She told us step-by-step process.
Remember, the defense wanted this trial moved out of Dallas County, but even with jurors selected tonight, the judge told me she could not say definitively whether it would stay here in Dallas County. Confirmation, though, could come sometime next week. The trial is still scheduled to begin a week from Monday. In Dallas tonight, Meredith Yeomans, NBC5.
All right, as we continue on.
Amber Guyger was again in court Friday as jury selection entered its crucial second day. A pool of 220 jurors were questioned by prosecutors, Guyger's defense, and Judge Tammy Kemp.
Just relieved. I'm just ready, ready to go home.
It was pretty intense at first when you noticed that there's 1,000 people in the room at the beginning.
For most, it ended in dismissal. Both the prosecution and defense received 2 hours to interact with jurors, hoping to weed out biases and misunderstandings about the law, a process that first began with a questionnaire.
It was police-centric. Do we trust the police? How do we think about the police? So I think it was focused on what our feelings were on law enforcement in general.
And Guyger's position as a police officer loomed large. Prosecutors asked potential jurors if they thought a higher level of certainty should be required to convict her since she was a police officer. 6 jurors stood and said yes. No matter their background, dismissed jurors told us the magnitude of this case had hit home.
I think this trial it could have a big impact on the city based on what the decisions made by the jurors. We want to trust our police and we want to hope that they're looking out for us. So I think this trial is going to show a lot of what the people think.
And Judge Tammy Kemp has said she hopes to have this process wrapped up by the end of the day. She also told potential jurors to expect, if they are selected to this jury, that they will likely be sequestered. Live in Dallas, Jack Heiberger, NBC5.
All right.
Good morning. Here this morning at the Frank Crowley Courts Building in Dallas, Texas, for what's essentially day 2 of the Amber Guyger murder trial jury selection.
Yeah, we had day 1 on Friday, last Friday, I should say. 806 people showed up, 410 got questionnaires. Those questionnaires have been reviewed in the last few days by the prosecution, Amber Guyger's defense team, Judge Tammy Kemp, and now today they called some of them back. And in the last few minutes, the judge has further specified where we're going.
So it looks like we're about to whittle it down in the next few minutes or so to 220. That's of that huge pool of people who showed up last week. And from there, we expect some pretty heavy questioning that's coming from, of course, the state, from the defense, as well as Judge Tammy Kemp, as they try to find 12 jurors and 4 alternates.
It's going to be a busy day. 220 people, a big jury pool. That's a lot of people. And they're going to want to go somewhat in-depth on each juror, both the defense, the prosecution. Judge Kemp has already said she's going to be heavily involved in this. So they're going to have to move pretty rapidly. And we know from pre-trial hearings that Judge Kemp has said that today, September 13th, was the day she would like to have a jury seated, which brings us to this looming defense motion that somewhat unorthodoxically Judge Kemp has said she's going to rule on after she tries to seat a jury.
And that's why the stakes are so high for this particular jury selection. This motion still out there, still on the table. It could move this trial to one of 6 counties here, including Rockwall, Fanning, Collin counties, where the demographics are quite different from what you would see in an urban area like Dallas County. So decisions will have to be made today whether that will happen or not. The questions will be about not only do you know of this case, do you know of the key players, Amber Guyger, both of John, but it's more about do you have an opinion about what is happening in this case. They've got to find 12 men and women and 4 alternates who have zero opinion about what's going on. The defense says that's not possible. They say, well, the media attention, the former DA, Faith Johnson's getting in front of television cameras, have poisoned the jury pool. So they believe in their motion that that's impossible.
Yeah, and time will tell. It's a big moment. It's a big day for Judge Kemp, who obviously wants to keep this trial here. But as they say, time will tell. One interesting little aside as far as how this is all set up. This is a big room. It's over 500 seats. The judge sits at the very front, understandably. Each side, the defense, the prosecution, and directly in front is Amber Guyger, which may be surprising to some people who have never closely followed a trial before. But the defense has her front and center in many ways so that they can get a read off of jurors as far as how they're reacting to her being there. And on Friday, last Friday, Amber Guyger seemed very, in the words of another journalist, unbothered, very calm as she sat there for a pretty lengthy process.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't also note, last Friday we heard from the attorneys that are representing the family of Botham Jean, and they were hopeful based on the initial number of people who answered the jury summons. So from that side of this case, they think that a trial will happen here in Dallas County. They think that jury can be selected in this pool, now down to 220.
So, big day. Larry's going to be on at 11 o'clock here in just, well, it's coming up quickly. And we'll have a complete breakdown at 4, 5, and 6.
I want to mention, if you have any questions, go ahead and tag us on social media or leave them in the comments throughout the day. When we are able, we'll try to get in there and answer any questions. We have a team of experts across North Texas, really across the country, standing by to try to answer any questions that you might have that we may not.
All right. Let me make sure I got it all. Okay, 2 more videos. I don't want to miss a beat.
In the murder trial of Amber Guyger, the judge hopes to seat a jury while the defense wants the trial moved. Jury selection could be finished by the end of today in the Amber Guyger murder trial. Guyger is the fired Dallas police officer charged with murdering Botham Jean in his apartment a year ago. Now, the trial is scheduled to start a week from Monday, unless the judge decides it should be moved out of Dallas. NBC5's Larry Collins is watching things as they unfold in the courtroom, and he joins us live now. Larry?
Yeah, good morning, Laura. A very busy day in the jury selection in the murder trial of Amber Guyger, and an equally as important day as well. Let me run you through how everything transpired today. Early this morning, around 380 potential jurors returned to the courthouse today. Keep in mind, more than 400 filled out those juror questionnaires. What is happening currently, by the end of today's newscast, we do expect it to have it whittled down to 220 people. Just stepped out of the courtroom. Right now, they're trying to fill 220 numbered chairs. From there, that is where the work will really begin. That's when attorneys for both sides, the state and the defense, as well as Judge Tammy Kemp, will start asking some very tough questions. They need to fill 12 jury seats and find 4 alternates. But also keep in mind, there's that big question: will this trial take place here in Dallas County? The defense says it's impossible to fill those 12 seats. They say that the jury pool has been poisoned. So we'll have to watch very closely to see what happens here. There are 6 counties here in North Texas that could end up with this trial, but the demographics of those counties are very different from the urban demographics here in Dallas County. So the self-imposed deadline for this to be all wrapped up was today, and that came from Judge Kemp, but we'll have to watch and see what happens as we get closer to the close of business. Our experts say if they're making good progress, it may continue on, or it may show them they may need to switch to another county. A lot of question marks, a lot still in the air. We will continue watching it. Updates, of course, on social media, on our website, NBCDFW.com, and of course here on air. But for now, we're live in Dallas.
All right. One last video.
Jurors seated today in the Amber Guyger murder trial. Guyger was a Dallas police officer when she shot and killed Botham Jean in his own apartment.
Little technical difficulties, I see. Let's see if we can get this to start back from the beginning. Let's see what we got here.
We may see our first juror seated today in the Amber Guyger murder trial. Guyger was a Dallas police officer when she shot and killed Botham Jean in his own apartment a year ago. She thought he was an intruder in her apartment. She was fired a few days later. Jury selection in her murder trial picks up this morning as attorneys and the judge are on a quest to fill 12 seats. New this morning.
Oh, so you want to act like that?
Larry Collins has talked to some potential jurors who've already been dismissed from the case. Larry, what are they telling you?
Yeah, good morning, Deborah. Those potential jurors, as they were exiting the courtroom last week, said when they found out what case they had been called in for, they were glad that they were let go. Now, when it comes to a high-profile case like this really becomes the challenge in filling those 12 seats. This case has gotten international attention. It's been front and center in local news for a year now. If enough jurors cannot be found, Judge Tammy Kemp could grant a change of venue request. Now, as this process moves into another day, we should look at the options. The defense seeks to have the trial moved to one of 6 nearby counties: Collin, Grayson, Kaufman, Ellis, Rockwall, or Fannin.
The jury makeup may be different. People in those counties, and especially in Ellis, Kaufman, and Grayson counties, tend to be more rural, more conservative, and less racially diverse.
Dr. Mary Knopfsinger is a litigation psychologist, basically a jury specialist. She notes that these 6 proposed counties are not far from Dallas County in geography, so possible jurors may still know much of the same information. But here's the difference. Because they are a bit removed from actually living in the county, they may not have formed an opinion about the case, and that is what really matters. We asked for more insight into the differences in demographics.
The motion should be able to show that the surrogate venue is similar to the case in which the county in which the case was filed. So I expected that the possible counties on the list would look and feel more like Dallas County, but they don't.
So what exactly do they look like? We've done the work for you. If you go to our website, nbcdfw.com/Guyger Murder Trial, we have an interactive map of all 6 of those counties still in play. You can click each one of them and take a look at the demographics and how they compare to Dallas County. We're live this morning in Dallas. Larry Collins, NBC5.
All right, Larry, we know you'll keep watching what happenings there at the Frank Crowley Courthouse. Keep in mind that the judge in this case, the Judge Tammy Kemp, hopes to seat 12 jurors and 4 alternates.
And I'll make sure, my royal family, that y'all will have that link that he's talking about, people that want to go more in depth. I would encourage the royal family to share this video because, like I said, my main channel is still down. And I'm really concerned about getting this out. This is very, very important. Now, what I wanted to point out, my royal family, is what I would call insult to injury. The defense is basically implying all the other counties, you know, they how can I put it? They're non-biased. You know, it just lets you know the level of racism that we are dealing with on this case. And don't be surprised if some type of antic is pulled before the 23rd, because trust and believe, Amber Guyger's attorneys don't want this trial in that venue at all. And again, if the judge is off cold, they're going to have to wait an entire year for this grueling process. And that is so unfair if Botham Jean's family have to deal with this. So I'm not going to make any predictions when it comes to that. I did make a prediction in the way this may go, and I'm not going to repeat that. Y'all would have to go find that on the main channel and stuff. So we'll just see how it goes. And I am totally committed into giving y'all the fullest coverage as possible. So again, the question that I asked the royal family is, can Amber Guyger get a fair trial? And, we got a little insight how these folks, think. Some folks was like, no, there was no way that I could say that she's even guilty. They came in with that mindset and trust and believe. It's a gamble because, people are very cunning and they hide how their biases, they just hide their biases and stuff. And then something that they've been bringing up that I have been seeing day one, I was even talking about this when we had interviewed the main witness. The main witness is that I hold Amber Guyger to a higher standard based on her profession. She's a cop. That's it and that's all. So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.